Listener discretion is advised.
You are listening to Wine and Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
Oh, yeah.
Our worst curtain bangs.
Oh, so many bangs.
Or
so
cats.
many curtains.
I got
They're
my
not
hair
curtains.
done. Got my hair done today for the first time since September. I am
Looks really good.
feeling myself.
You are so goldy right now.
Are you happy with your, new person in Louisville?
Yes,
Or
I
is this
love
now
her.
the second time you've gone to her?
Second time I've gone to her. She's awesome. We talked about how her name is Aubrey at Cobalt Hair Lab. And we talked about how she wants to be cremated when she dies and have her remains put inside a taxidermied possum
I love
smoking
her.
a Virginia Slim.
God damn it, that's good.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's good.
Me up.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I
feel
arrived to Kentucky to chat with that woman.
Yeah, I
we
feel like
are
every
kindred
week
spirits.
my demands, I shouldn't say requirements, demands for my end of life plan expand.
Yeah. The list
And they
gets longer.
Just have. So
Oh,
I'm gonna write-
taxidermy. I told her I was copying her. I was like, I won't do a possum or a Virginia Slim, but I am going to copy you on the taxidermy for my remains.
1,000%.
And she was like, great, do it. Let me know what you choose. My husband
You
wants
should-
to be a raccoon.
You should break up your ashes into 3 little taxidermied toads playing in a folk band.
Yes.
Classic.
Classic. Maybe gator
Yes.
I'll eat
These are-
you.
I would too, honestly.
Um,
bite. Ugh.
Anyway,
By the way, I'm Kenyan.
there it is. I'd eat you. Anyway.
I'm the bassist in my taxidermied toad band. I'm Lucy.
And I'm definitely the front man in the taxidermy toad band. In
front
my own,
toad.
anyway. I'm front toad. I am lead toad, Amanda.
Lead toad.
I don't know. With your shirt, you're kind of giving me drummer vibes right now.
That's true. However, would a drummer hide behind a drum kit with a shirt that says "Ask me about my wiener"?
True.
That it could be a
true.
drummer shirt
Yeah.
because it's like ironic and cute.
Mm-hmm.
But this could also be lead toad fodder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you
Kenyan-
want to see what we're talking about, head on over to Patreon at any level to
Yeah.
get a scoop of these
Yeah.
gals.
Ooh.
I can see Kenyan as the drummer, honestly, with your hair.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure.
When the bangs are a rackin', don't come a knackin'.
Mhm.
And
I
I'll
can't-
be the bassist because I can't pick out a bass line in any given song to save my fucking life. And my husband is a bassist.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I've gotten a little bit better, but for many a moon, I could not tell you if something was piano or guitar. Like
They're
the
both string
sound-
instruments.
The sound just melded. I can't. I'm not musical.
We all
so
have our strengths. And
It's either a
weaknesses.
harmonica or a saxophone.
It's either a human voice or
A bunch of toads croaking.
Right. Yeah.
all right.
Anyway, let's
Okay.
dive in. We've got some housekeeping before we get to this episode
All right,
today.
we got
Sure
some
do.
butt plugs. Okay, so first of all, a lot of you have already done this, but we still have tickets for our upcoming virtual live show. Amanda, tell us more.
Y'all, I am so excited about this. So we are getting together, the three of us, fully vaccinated, together in one place on May 7th for a live stream experience. It is a show. It is a moment to launch a new product that we have coming to you. It is a celebration of our mothers because it's Mother's Day weekend. We're going to cram a lot of significance into this one
A
thing.
reunion.
It's
It's going to
a
be eventful.
reunion.
It's going to be emotional. I might cry.
Oh, we're definitely going to cry.
all cry.
I guarantee you this will not be disappointing. I cannot possibly hype this too much. I cannot set us up to fail. It's going to be the greatest live streamed experience you have ever had in your life. And tickets are available now at wineandcrimepodcast.com. If you head over to our events page, you will see all of the details. Again, it's Friday, May 7th, 2021, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on whatever device you can stream on. We're going to be on your phone. We're going to be on your TV, maybe. Your computer. Watch it in bed. Watch us while you poop. We don't care. There's
Might be a long poop.
Might be a 2-hour poop. But you know what? I've done weirder poops. You could chat with us during the show. We're going to do like a tiny Q&A at the end. It's going to be so much fun. We cannot wait.
Yeah. You can heckle us virtually.
Yes.
From
Although, be careful.
wherever you are.
There will be a moderator making sure that nothing gets too out of control in the chat.
Oh, yeah.
But I did make sure in our production meeting today, I was like, people need to be able to yell fuck in the chat. I was like, you can't flag fucks. You can't flag shits, balls, cocks. Ass.
Yeah.
I was like, listen.
The only thing this is going to be
moderate the
missing,
chat.
the only thing this is going to be missing on our end is that nobody can like pass us a slice of pizza
I was
or
just
a
gonna say.
purse burger or whatever from the audience.
Right.
But this is like
will
one
get there, though.
step back toward Purse Burger.
Yeah.
Oh, I miss
We're
purse
making
burger.
our way back to Purse Burger. So please, please, we've never done one of these before. We would love for you to watch this show and kind of participate however you can. And I think it's going to be freaking amazing, and we want everybody to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get your tickets.
Yeah, so you can find more info on our website on that events page and probably the homepage, right?
Yep, it's on wineandcrimepodcast.com. There's an announcement on the homepage. There is also an events tab that has all the info on it too. So we are just gonna blast you in the ass with information.
Okay.
Blast ass.
Next up, the biggest butt plug of all time.
Speaking of blasting ass,
We have a statement that we'd like to make regarding some recent
Online harassment
Online
of a
harassment.
fellow
Yeah.
podcaster.
so
That's
Kenyon,
not okay.
take it away.
Basically, we realize that probably like our listeners that are on social media are probably aware of what an absolute asshat jerk douchebag Mike Boudet is, who is the creator of Sword and Scale. And if you aren't tuned in to like the podcasting world on social media, you might not have realized that. And I know that back before I knew anything about him, used to listen to Sword and Scale. And
Same.
before I knew that he is actual human garbage. And he has come for us before. He
called us wine and see you next Tuesdays.
Yes, he did.
which like that's super clever, and I love it, and I wish I had come up with it.
I mean, I don't hate it, but you could sense the vitriol behind it, and that's
he's
where
a-
I take
he's-
umbrage.
he's a racist, misogynist, like piece of
Troll,
hot trash.
MAGA, just
He's
bad. He's a
not
bad
great.
person. He's a bad person. And he has been going after and full on harassing Rabia Chaudhry online and wherever he can get at her and her shows. And she is a lovely person, and she is a fellow podcaster and a just brilliant, all around smart, cool lady. And we stand with Rabia and fuck Mike Boudet.
And his attacks on her have absolutely been
Escalated.
They've been racially motivated.
Yes.
They have been like sexual harassment motivated.
It's
I mean,
violence.
It's
He's
truly
been creating
disgusting.
like fake accounts and bots to go after her. He's been sicking different fans of his
Going
on
after her advertisers, like any way that you can imagine. So
Meanwhile,
basically,
he has lost advertisers and been dropped from yet another network, which should be all you need to know about how
because he's
trash this person is.
vile and he can't help but create enemies, and he did it to himself. So anyway,
basically what we want to express, because I suspect that we have a lot of crossover listeners, because again, not everyone is aware of what a monstrous piece of shit he is. So we encourage you to maybe do a little independent research, because it is readily available.
yeah.
And just be aware of the media that you're consuming, and just know that we are standing behind Rabia. We are not okay with Mike Boudet's actions, and
Don't listen to Sword and Scale and don't support him.
That's
and if
where
you
we're
want to listen to 2 hours of unedited 911 calls, go to YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
So let's get back to the show because I am so fucking excited for this episode topic.
Yes.
I
so
am too.
we have a very, if you thought the rants were over, you were wrong.
Hi,
This is our
welcome.
foreplay. This is foreplay for us. I'm
Just
sliding off
warming
my
myself up.
chair.
So we have a very special fan pick today brought to you by Blair Carpenter. And Blair has selected the topic of Karen crimes.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, Blair.
Yeah.
And obviously, hashtag not all Karens, but Karens as an umbrella archetype. And I'm sure we will get to it.
Yeah, I
We'll
mean, not all
fucking get
people
to it.
named Karen.
Right.
It's like a collective.
It's a meme.
Whiteness.
It's a trope. It's a. We'll get
Yeah.
into it. We will get
It's
so
like
far
Chads.
into it.
Mm-hmm.
You'll wish we never even brought it up.
All
Wish
right.
you had never been born.
I've already been drinking the wine, so let's get on to our wine a crime pairing
Yeah,
for
I'm
Karen
excited.
crimes.
Amanda's keeping it a secret.
What is it? What is it?
Okay. I'm so excited about this pairing. All right. So, first I want to say our fan picker Blair did pick a wine for me, and I looked up where I could get it, and I could get it at Total Wine, and then I went to get it, and it was not in stock.
Mm-hmm.
So I am not featuring that wine today, and I'm also not going to say what it was because I'm now getting an alert when it does come back in stock.
So you
and I'm
compare it with
very,
something else.
yeah, I'm really intrigued by this wine. It's a varietal that I had not explored before, so I want to save it.
Red.
Okay.
And Blair, I will make sure to
Great.
credit you when I am able to pair this when it comes back in stock because I'm really excited to try it.
Okay.
But in the meantime,
Uh-oh.
I definitely made my best pairing that I have ever made.
Better than tons.
Way better than tons. Because today we are drinking the Karen cocktail Chardonnay with 2 ice cubes.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
No.
Now, in order to make this cocktail, you're going to want to reach for whatever's open,
Yeah.
but hasn't been open too long.
Yeah.
So if you're at the restaurant and that Kim Crawford has been open for more than 2 days,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to
Speak
send
to the manager.
You're
Yeah.
going to ask for the manager. You're going
Raise
to send it
some
back.
hell.
Mm-hmm.
Because you deserve better.
Yeah. So I had an open bottle of Cameron Hughes, which God bless him, delicious.
Yeah.
And I just opened this to have with dinner like last night. No, not last night because I had COVID shakes the night before.
2 nights. 2 nights.
2
old.
nights. So it's a
Open
2 nights
Chardonnay
old
with
open
2 ice
Chardonnay.
cubes. Mine is a-
Literally perfect.
Mine is a 2-night-old Pinot Grigio.
Oh,
Yeah.
call your husband, get some cubes up onto the 3rd floor. So follow me for more recipes and cheers.
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 That is so
I-
perfect.
I'm so excited. Also, this glass is like soaked on the outside because of all the ice cubes. It's like dripping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wet.
Ooh. It's so cold. You can't smell the nose.
It's making me sneeze.
It's so cold, I can barely get any tasting notes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you like it.
Yep. I'm
Yeah.
sure this will pair super well with fries for the table.
Truffle fries.
Sauce on the side.
Yeah. And separate checks for 13.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But like by item, because I am not paying part of what Shannon had at the other end of the table.
Or
No.
Cynthia.
They
diet
wanted
my
calamari.
She had 2 margaritas. I am not paying for that.
Oh my God. It's already off to the perfect start.
So, Lucy, what is our background and hopefully, dear God, psych for Karen crimes?
Oh, yeah. This is a longer segment than I normally give, so buckle up. But
Deal
there's a
with
lot
it.
of good information.
Mhm.
Okay. So Karen, as a pejorative term, means a woman seeming to be entitled or demanding beyond the scope of what is normal.
Reasonable.
And not demanding, like, that you also come during sex. Like, not demanding voting rights.
Yeah.
Or, like,
No, we'll get
You
to
know,
the misogyny part of
Racial
this.
equity.
Do
Yeah.
not worry.
it's demanding a bullshit.
Mhm.
The term also refers to memes depicting white women who use their privilege to demand their own way. Depictions may include demanding to speak to the manager, being racist, or sporting a particular bob cut hairstyle as exemplified by Kate Gosselin, who I am sure we will get to, Amanda.
Oh, we will.
I feel like you had a real close speak to the manager haircut.
I did get a pixie cut, and when it was growing out,
Yeah.
it was really hard not to be an intensely angled bob, but I didn't
but it was like
spike
emo.
the back.
It was like emo at the time, kind of.
Yeah, it wasn't quite Karen, but it easily could have gotten there.
I think
My
it wasn't
sister-
Karen
With different
because
styling, it could have been.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My
And
sister
highlights.
has been much closer to the Kate Gosselin haircut than I ever
Really?
have, with the chunky highlights.
yep,
Yes, Ashley, I will unearth those photos for our blog.
Yep.
Heading over to Facebook. Continue.
Amazing. The term has been criticized.
Jacobson.
The term has been criticized for being sexist, ageist, misogynistic, or seeking to control female behavior. We will get to it.
Kind of does do all those things, but
But there's
also,
a threshold.
There is. There's a fine line, and it can be both. When misapplied, it can be those things.
Well,
but
and
when
the thing is-
appropriately applied, it can actually
Yeah.
call out.
It's so closely
Issues.
tied to racism at this point that like a lot of the backlash that's coming specifically from white women who have a problem with the term Karen is because they do not want to take accountability for their behavior and the harm that they've caused.
Right.
And so of course,
We'll get to
of
it.
course people are going to freak out and be like, it's
Don't
sexist.
blow your rant load yet.
I'm not
We will
ranting.
get to it.
I'm actually very calm.
Okay. All right. In
Tell me to calm
2020,
down.
as she sips from her white wine with ice cubes, don't tell me to calm down.
I'll
In
send this back.
2020, the term was increasingly being used in media and on social media as a general purpose term for middle class white women, especially during the pandemic and Black Lives Matter protests. In particular, the Karen has evolved into a figure known for her hypocrisy, rudeness toward working class staff, and anti-science beliefs.
Yeah.
A stereotypical Karen plays fast and loose with pseudoscience, appropriates identities, may be conservative, definitely is conservative, and is extremely
Guaranteed.
picky.
Is conservative for sure.
COVID-19.
Or not very political.
Oh yeah, I'm not
yes.
political.
And
With her MAGA bathing suit on.
definitely is involved in an MLM.
Yeah.
COVID-19 has become a racially charged issue as well. The pandemic disproportionately affects people from Black and other ethnic minority backgrounds. So the refusal of some people to acknowledge the risks associated with the virus and to be shielded from these risks by their white privilege has also been seen as Karen behavior. So I want to talk about the name Karen itself, which was originally a Danish form of Catherine, descended from the ancient name Ekaterine, which apparently was often confused and conflated with a Greek word meaning purity. So Karen does not mean purity. Like if we go back as the history of the name is
Okay.
concerned.
Okay.
So that does lend a bit of accidental irony to the Karen meme with its emphasis on sanctimonious morality, but it has nothing to do with the way the pejorative term evolved. The name Karen peaked as a popular baby name in the United States around 1965. So
Which I think is very applicable.
Well, even though the typical meme Karen is from like Gen X, the actual majority of women named Karen in the United States are boomers. So if
I
there's any
associate it with boomers,
Yeah.
not Gen X.
or older millennials, personally. So if there's any correlation between the name and reality, we can at most speculate that the women who've wound up giving all Karens a bad name are a group of white senior citizens behaving badly. Ouch.
The being rude to waitstaff is
Big one.
really key.
It's just an overall perception that the world owes you something, that you are entitled to something.
Right. It just doesn't make, and just having like an attitude.
I'm
It's
telling
like,
you
why?
right now, how individuals treat wait staff is so indicative of their entire like being. So just like pay close attention. If you're on a date, if you're
Yeah.
out with friends,
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
that's a big reveal.
Mm-hmm. If you're on a first date and the person's really nice to you and sweet to you and your parents, then they treat the waitstaff like shit. It's like,
Or they tip
there will not
badly.
be a second date. Yeah, if it's like under 20%,
Yeah.
honestly.
No.
So the top definition and examples on Urban Dictionary is, quote, a middle-aged woman, typically blonde, makes solutions to others' problems as inconvenience to her, although she isn't even remotely affected. So some examples are, in a sentence, Karen sues the local city council after they installed a new stop sign that hides the sun from her window for 2 minutes a day. The sign was installed after a schoolboy on his bicycle was hit by a speeding driver and died.
Oh, is that a real headline, like article blurb?
I doubt it.
Okay. I wouldn't be surprised if it was.
It's just an example.
Sure.
The next one is Karen refuses to wear a face mask for her 5-minute trip to the supermarket during a pandemic. She harasses the workers, asks to see the manager, and threatens to sue. Third example, Karen complains that her favorite parking spot was replaced by a ramp for wheelchairs. She parks her car in the old spot anyway and shoots a vlog about it.
Yeah. Oh, the vlogs in the car where they're like, let me tell you about
You
my
wouldn't
day.
even believe. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Uh-huh.
So there are a few theories as to where this term originated. Some think it stems from a Dane Cook routine, but he's a fucking gross individual, so I am not about to give him any credit.
I
Others
just
say
know that he's gross. I don't know why or how he's been gross, but I know that he is known
some of
to
his
be.
quote unquote stand up routines are really ishy, and also he's close to 50 and he's dating a 19-year-old.
He's a problematic white man. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
What white man isn't? But yeah,
Exactly,
Dane
but,
Cook and
Dan Levy.
ishy. True. Others say it came from the Karen character in Mean Girls, as in, oh my God, Karen, you can't just ask people why they're white. The prevailing story is that it started on Reddit when a user started posting his grievances about his ex-wife who allegedly took their kids and the house. So this guy was just on Reddit, like, bitching about that. A high school student from Irvine, California, called on Reddit Karma Cop 97. So if you can guess what year he was born, created a subreddit called r/fuckyouKaren, devoted to sharing memes created about this man's saga. And now that subreddit has around 500,000 followers. I don't know how Reddit works. Do you follow threads?
I mean, you can. Is it a Reddit?
Is it a
it's
thread?
a Reddit post.
It's a subreddit.
So yeah, subreddits can have followers. Specific posts have like upvotes or downvotes.
So this r/fuckyouKaren has like 500,000 people.
Then yeah,
involved in
that's a subreddit. So yeah, I need to join this. I'm gonna look this
Yeah,
up.
that sounds good.
Also, I have been searching my sister's Facebook, Ashley, and I just texted her to ask if I can use some of these photos on the blog because they're amazing.
Put them in the chat now.
I'm doing it right now. Some of them are just her slight, almost Karen haircut, but then she went as Kate Gosselin for Halloween several years ago with 8 like baby dolls and toys like strung around her.
Ashley.
Oh, it's
Her
incredible.
hair.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So-
love this costume.
And her husband dressed up like the husband.
John. Yep.
Yeah.
They went as John and Kate plus 8.
He's got those gross sunglasses.
And that gross t-shirt.
Oh, but
Anyway.
Ashley's hair isn't like Karen.
No, it's not Kate Gosselin. She's actually cute. It's an
but she
angled
could
bob.
play it up like Kate Gosselin.
Correct. It's borderline.
It's an angled bob with chunky blonde highlights. It's close. On
It's
paper,
borderline.
she's just so cute that she
Yeah.
is okay.
She gets away with it.
So Karma Cop 97 says, quote, a Karen divorces her husband and takes the kids, is a pseudoscientist slash anti-vaxxer slash flat earther, an MLM participant, an avid user of Facebook to post shitty motivational posts like live, laugh, love, etc. Our Karen in the wild won't satisfy all of these attributes, but she can still be a true Karen.
Yeah, for me, it's the like dichotomy between the live, laugh, love painted on wooden rustic boards in the home and the absolutely going off and screaming at a checkout person.
Well,
Yeah.
because
It's
live,
like-
laugh, love only applies to white middle class.
Right. Right.
We'll get to it. So this is from Wikipedia. A more pointed explanation which involves race is the expression originates among Black people to refer to unreasonable white women. The term was popularized on Black Twitter as a meme used to describe white women who, quote, tattle on Black kids' lemonade stands or who unleash the violent history of white womanhood. Oh, we'll get to it.
Yeah.
Good, and yes, we will. So the magazine that's called Bitch, I think it's like a quarterly kind of, it's incredible.
Subscribed. I'm here for it.
Right? Bitch described Karen as a term that originated with Black women but was co-opted by white men.
It's also just important to mention that we as like liberal white women cannot other ourselves from all of this, and that like we all have these weapons inside of us that are like poised to strike at any moment.
Absolutely.
So like any of us having this conversation with each other are armed and capable of being a Karen.
We're not excusing ourselves from this
Totally.
category at all, just trying to explain
Absolutely.
how and why
that's all
this
I'm saying.
exists. And as we'll get to at the end of my segment, there are ways to disengage from that and to work to kind of work
The first
work
step
against
is,
it.
is to be aware of
Exactly.
it so that you don't fall into it. So
Yeah,
that
you have to
don't-
recognize the behavior and the
Right.
harm so that you can stop it in its tracks.
Right.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, in African American culture, there is a long history of calling a meddlesome white woman by a certain name. In the antebellum era, which in the U.S. would be about 1815 through 1861-ish, she was referred to as a Miss Anne. Mostly white women, but sometimes Black women who are arrogant and condescending. In the early 1990s, the name Becky was used, like Becky with the good hair. As late as 2018, before the use of Karen caught on, alliterative names matching particular incidents were used, such as Barbecue Becky, Corner Store Carolyn, and Permit Patty.
Oh my God, Barbecue Becky was the worst.
I've got a
There are-
permit Patty in my case, but it's actually permit Susan, which is actually Karen. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
We'll come up with an alliteration, don't worry.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Supremacy Susan.
Yeah.
there we go.
That was quick.
I'm right there for you. I love alliteration.
Obviously, we have to address the misogyny associated with the term Karen. Like I said before, I personally think there's a threshold when it comes to calling someone a Karen and be like justified about it. Like if you're hurling slurs in Whole Foods over being asked to wear masks, as opposed to just a catch-all insult to any given woman speaking up about something.
Right.
I also think for me, and this is all subjective, right? But for me, if somebody is like so overt and blatant about their racism or their political MAGA,
Privilege,
whatever.
Just privilege in general.
Well, not privilege, but if they're so overt about it, that is almost like different than a Karen in my view. Like a Karen thinks she's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
She thinks she's doing the right thing.
Right. She's not.
No.
You know, like she is causing harm and it can be racism, but I just think it's a little like a shade subtler than like using a direct slur. So like in my case, we will get to how fucking racist it is without ever using slurs. Does that make sense?
Yes,
I feel like it's
I think so. A Karen isn't
like the women who were storming the Capitol on January 6th. Like they're not Karens to me. It's more like
they're racists.
Yeah, I mean, Karen is almost like it's more insidious because it's like us, like
it's subtle,
right? And that's how like racism and white supremacy thrive is by normalization and like just because I'm not using slurs doesn't mean I'm not racist. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like when a Karen gets so upset about like their rights being infringed on because somebody told them to wear a mask and then they burst into tears and make a whole scene. It's like they are very rooted in those convictions. And like that does tend to fuel it. I think Karen could be broader. Like I think it can include all of those things, to be honest. But I get what you're saying, that like it feels more specific. Like you could tell the difference between someone just being a bonkers bigot just out in the street.
Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. Like a crazy ass
being blatantly violent and knowing they're being blatantly violent. And then the Karen is almost more dangerous because like you said, they think that they're standing for something righteous, but they're not.
It's more of the pearl clutching.
Right.
Yeah. A Karen would get a young, black mom fired for forgetting her ice cubes in her Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
But she wouldn't necessarily like use the N-word.
Mm-hmm.
And she would think, I'm not racist.
Right.
I just ordered what I ordered.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And blah, blah, blah.
Well,
you know what I mean?
We will get to the defense mechanisms of Karens as well.
But yeah, I think that the misogyny aspect comes in when it's like, certainly when... I think people of color can call us fucking Karens because that's their experience and that, like...
Of course,
I believe that. But if, like, the fact that it was appropriated by white men, that's really where I feel like the misogyny comes into play, where it's like any female who's actually just standing up for or advocating for themselves.
Or any female of a certain age or physical body type or like clothing
haircut
choices. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the haircut, I mean, that's a real choice. So I defend that. You cannot have
We're
money
going to let
and
Boudet have that one.
Yeah, that is not okay. That haircut.
Okay.
But
we don't have a lot of boundaries, but that's one of them.
All right.
pouring more wine.
Moving on. The current use of the Karen meme is almost always to call out the perceived entitlement and rude behavior of white women. But it's easy to see each of these variants coming back to bite real Karens, meaning people actually named Karen. And many people think that the Karen meme itself is just a form of blanket misogyny. So this is a quote from a Vox article. It's tempting to ask what a Karen or a Chad or a Stacy, Susan, Becky, or Kyle, which we'll get to those names as well, can do to ward off this mimetic derision. If, for example, there are ways you can work around or minimize the fallout related to your basic white person name. Okay, this is a quote.
That's way harsher than any Karen meme. The fallout related to your capitalized basic white person
I love
name.
that. It also cracks me up that like people just... White people having their name used as a meme, that's like the first time they've ever experienced any kind of harm. It's like just fucking let it go.
Think about how much white people have made fun of black names.
We will get to it. We'll get to it. I just need to point out that this is an actual, speaking of names, I thought this was so fucking perfect. The initials are I.M., last name Nick. Dr. I.M. Nick, who is a nomenclature scholar and former president of the American Name Society.
Who goes by I am Nick.
Dr. I.M. Nick.
Obsessed.
Feels that question misses the point. So Dr. I.M. Nick says, as a society, we often expect people to somehow modify their behavior to avoid becoming a victim. The better course, she proposed, would be to, quote, work against the source of the name discrimination and protect those who are harmed by it. In this case, because the Karen meme doubles as a call-out method to highlight white privilege, working against the source of the meme also means not only dismantling systems of privilege, but also becoming more aware of your individual entitlement.
Boom. Thank you.
Dr.
It's like people who
Nick.
get all fucking up in arms about looting, but like don't want to address what's causing that.
Correct.
It's the same shit.
So, of course, Karens aren't just women. So the Jim Crow era male equivalent to Miss Anne, as I mentioned earlier, was Mr. Charlie. And a lot of people use the name Kyle for this context, but there's no fully established name for a male Karen. I personally vote Kyle because
I have used
in my
Kyle.
experience,
Kyle and Chad.
she fits. Yeah.
Also Todd.
Yeah.
Kyle and Chad, I think. But the Chad thing is like
A little different.
it's
Skews
about-
younger.
It's the
little more bro-y.
the men's rights
Yes.
movement thing, which I'll actually get to in just a second.
Todd
So-
wears like boat shoes. He's
We'll get-
more of like
Vineyard vines.
yeah.
Fucking belts with the little whales on them.
Oh yeah.
A real nard dog.
A real nerd definitely went to Cornell.
Trying to think of the character in Sack from Wedding
God, for
Crashers.
Wedding-
Ew, sack. Ick.
A Todd is a real sack.
That's how I think about Broccoli Rob too.
Oh, boner champ.
Ew. Okay. So, writer for The Atlantic, David A. Graham, called then President Donald Trump the Karen in chief. And this is my favorite fucking thing of my entire segment. Also, Elon Musk has been called Space Karen. And there is a photo on the drive, which will be on the blog, of Elon Musk in a Karen wig in like a galactic background. It's
Oh,
so
it's
fucking
good.
good.
Also,
I
the
love
fact
that.
that Elon Musk hasn't capitalized on selling a fragrance called Elon's Musk is just so dumb. Like
It's
that
egregious.
That fruit is hanging so low and ripe for picking, and you're just ignoring it?
Yeah.
You're sending Teslas to space, but not grabbing Elon's Musk?
Well, he had that tweet that one time that was like, next time I get embroiled in a controversy, I want it to be called Elongate. Which is so fucking gross.
Don't
and then
like
Matt
that.
Gaetz replied, I want it to be called Gatesgate. And like 2 seconds later,
Be
he was
careful what
outed
you
as
wish.
being a fucking
Yeah.
pervert.
Sir, you're trafficking.
Not,
Sir, Gatesgate. It's
Not-
happening.
not deriving joy from the
No.
horrific crimes that he committed against children, but I
course
am
not.
deriving joy from
For
the Schadenfreude.
accountability?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also, I
Fuck
just
that
don't
guy.
understand what it is. And I gotta say, this mostly falls under the Republican side. But if he looks like a fucking pervert dickhole douchebag, turns out he is.
If it walks like a duck, folks.
But they
Yeah.
all the ones that get outed as being like really
And it
problematic
talks like a sexual
look
predator,
like
folks.
it.
It's
Yep.
probably Matt Gaetz.
Oh, he has
Yeah.
the worst face.
Oh, he's
On the
just
planet.
awful. Yeah.
Okay, so like we were kind of touched on before, in the predominantly white men's rights movement, Chads, Stacys, and Beckys are used to embody and mock people who conform to mainstream gender norms and beauty standards, and apparently belts with whales on them. Because these kinds of names are, like we said before, basic white people names, some people see an element of reclamation in this trend. So like payback for decades of Black names being pejoratively stereotyped.
Yes.
Either way, names have always played a key role in reinforcing existing societal rules, including power imbalances. And let me just give this little anecdote because I think it's so fucking funny. So my legal name is Lachelle, and I was at a stand-up comedy show a while ago, and one of the comedians, his name is Dante. He's Moose Rattler on Instagram. You should follow him. I think he's fucking hilarious. But he was up there and he was like, all right, I know how to solve racism in America. Like, okay, we're listening. And he said, I think all the white parents should name their kids with historically Black names, and all the Black parents should name their kids historically white names. That way everyone...
This comedian's not white, I'm assuming.
He is not white.
Okay, good. I was like,
No, it was the whole evening was like Black comedians from across the state, something like that. But so a lot of the material was about racial whatever interactions. So and I happened to be sitting in the front row with my friend CG. And he pointed and he's like, for example, what's your name? He points straight at me. And I was like, my name is Lachelle. And he was like, oh, fuck. And he points to CG. What's your name? My name's CG. And he's like, oh, fuck. And he points to this Black woman sitting next to CG. What's your name? She's like, my name's Danielle. And he's like, all right, this didn't work.
Never mind. Apparently, my experiment has been tried.
I take it back.
He's like, this is still a thing.
Never happened before.
Well,
I grew up with Lachelle as my name. I am a white person. So, like, I have experienced a very small taste of, like, what those kind of suggestions entail.
What the name discrimination is.
Yeah. So I get it. It's like very much a real thing. I'm not saying like, oh, I feel your pain, but like,
no,
I've experienced a very small degree of that. So it is a real thing. It's a power balance. The names really do play a role in how people perceive you.
Yeah.
Right.
Kenyan,
exactly. Okay, so one other thing that I wanted to touch on is the correlation between Karens and whiteness, which obviously we have been touching on kind of this whole time. This is from a Psychology Today article. So this reads, whiteness is a complex. It is the experience of privilege benefiting those deemed the white racial majority at the top of a racial pyramid. Whiteness is both unconscious and explicitly assumed status and power. This includes the racial beliefs, experiences, and behaviors of white persons. Privilege shows in ways such as Black Americans requiring higher education levels to attain equal financial standing to white counterparts. In this way, white privilege is not invisible. To the contrary, it has been argued that privilege is visible and tangible, leading those with privilege to go to great lengths to hold on to this power. From this view, unregulated whiteness can cause white supremacist ideology and action. Shock news. Like, wow, weird. For instance, intense white racial identity mixed with a strong belief in social dominance or maintaining the current majority group power structure drive involvement in far-right extremism. January 6th, hello.
Yeah.
Whiteness is far-reaching in terms of where it does harm. For instance, white dominant ideology has been argued to negatively affect academia in the maintenance of racially driven scholarships and viewpoints. Additionally, resentment of racial minorities and stronger identification with white identity show clear influence on voting choice and support of political candidates. White communities possess well-entrenched defenses and strategies to maintain the status quo. An interesting qualitative study, which was linked in the article, which will be cited if you're interested, demonstrated that white persons knowingly and unknowingly construct strategies to prevent themselves from needing to engage with the reality of racial inequity and white supremacy.
I'm just not that political.
Right.
But I mean, like, I do that. Everyone on this call does that. Like, I think that, again, I know I've mentioned this before, but it's like, it's so important that we don't look at June 6th as the only representation of white
January
supremacy.
6th?
Sorry, January 6th. January 6th. The insurrection.
No,
as
of
the
course
only
not.
representation of white supremacy, because it's like it
of
thrives so
course.
much more when it's insidious. So like
Not in the United States, my God. Everything. You
Right.
could point to almost every event, every interaction
well, every
on a
system,
certain scale, every system
yeah,
as
like it's
racially influenced.
there. Well,
Okay.
certainly influenced by white supremacy. Like that's what all of us. It's like in our white DNA. It's in every system that exists in the United States.
Correct.
So
So these maneuvers to avoid us as white people confronting that include evasion. So this involves complete avoidance of engaging with race-based discourse. I am not that political. Willful color blindness. This entails defensive efforts to introduce alternative facts or reasons, downplaying race-based explanations despite awareness that race influences the matter at hand. Reasoning ignorance. So this compromises efforts to rationalize acknowledged racism or prejudice. For instance, one might blame racist beliefs of friends and family members on solely unconscious bias, thereby alleviating the offending person of moral blame or culpability. And then lastly, creating doubt in solutions. So even where racism is acknowledged, anti-racist solutions are cast in doubt in terms of likely success. Oh, that'll never work. Oh, what would defunding the police look like? That'll never work.
This one, I feel like I, just as a pessimistic person who has like studied policy making, this is where I trip up a lot because I just am jaded of like picturing things being radically different or radically better.
yeah,
You know?
I totally feel for you there. And I think that it's important for us to remember that those thoughts and feelings literally are white supremacy telling us that it's not
Right.
possible.
Right.
Like that is a tactic of white
Right.
supremacy. So if we remember that, like when we are feeling those feelings, to
Right.
acknowledge them and be like, oh shit, actually that's like the white supremacy puppet master telling me it's not possible, so why try?
Right.
That helps me to reform my way of thinking.
And then I think about how much things have changed in other arenas
Mm-hmm.
from when I was, in middle school or growing up or whatever, how things are just things that were commonplace then are just no longer fucking acceptable now, and how great that is. So then that gives me a little bit more hope. But just personally, I know that that's the part of this process that tends to trip me up, just because I think of like, okay, well, how will this happen? Whose incentive, like who has the power? What are their incentives to change it? How can those incentives be changed? That seems like really, really fucking hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we still have to try. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just whether it's conscious or unconscious, it's a sort of clutching at retaining the status quo, which clearly is not working for
Right.
a lot of people in this country.
Right.
So what, if you break it down, what's the harm in trying something new? It's obviously not going to be worse for an awful lot of people.
And the thing about white supremacy is that it doesn't even, it's like misogyny. It's like sexism. It doesn't even actually, at the end of the day, truly serve the people that it
Oh no.
benefits, if that
It
makes
doesn't.
sense.
It doesn't, but it tricks you into thinking
Yeah.
like this is I have one-on-one weekly anti-racism coaching with a black coach, and we just talked about this today actually, where it's like she literally asked me, she was like, what do you stand to lose if, let's say, white supremacy is dismantled tomorrow? And I was like, well, it's, the collective would want, like the white supremacist collective would want me to think I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to lose all my money because I'll have to give it away to everyone else, and I'm going to lose my house and blah, blah, blah.
which is
but in
so
reality,
fucking dumb.
Right, it's stupid. I was like, that's a joke, because in reality, I wouldn't lose anything. I was like, in the grand scheme of things, maybe I'd have to pay more taxes.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, I'm
Right.
not at risk of loss just because Black, brown, indigenous, Asian people of color have what I have. It doesn't take anything away from me.
It's like that meme that's like, equality is not a pie. Just because somebody else has more doesn't mean you have less.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's white supremacy that makes us think that so that we can keep it alive.
It's like racial greed almost. It's power.
And then I just think about like the tragic fucking shooting murder of Ma'Khia Bryant.
Oh my God. I
And
could not believe that. I mean, I could believe it. That's the horrible part.
The cop, I don't know if it was the same cop that killed her or if it was another cop that was like on the scene. And as we're recording this, I don't think all the information is available yet, but one of the cops present at the scene shouted "Blue Lives Matter" back at the neighbors of the girl.
At
after
the people protest, like who had gathered.
The people who had just organically gathered after after the body had been
I hadn't heard that, but I don't doubt it. I mean, in Brooklyn Center, where Dante Wright was murdered by Kim Potter, they, up until very recently, and had been for years, were flying a Blue Lives Matter sign right underneath their American flag.
Right.
On the police station.
Yeah, I don't think police stations should be allowed to fly other flags than the fucking
no
U.S. flag.
Absolutely not.
But what that made me think of is just like this sad, fragile little white man.
Yeah.
That he lives in such a state of like fear that his toys are going to be taken away, that he can look past and not even care about the murder of a child.
To say, oh, yeah.
To say, like, oh, well, no girls allowed. Like, my club matters more than the death of this child.
Yeah, it's tough. And there are so many people who are talking about how she was brandishing a knife and in a fight. And it's like, okay, I worked as a bartender and in bars for 15 years.
As an adult.
Yep. And I wasn't wearing Kevlar and had a taser option on my hip. But between myself and our security team, we broke up plenty of fights that involved weaponry, broken glass, knives that people had in their pockets. Mental health professionals, fucking social workers, teachers, like medical professionals, doctors and ERs. People handle these kinds of situations all the time.
Completely untrained high school teachers can break up fights with weapons more dangerous than a kitchen knife.
You're telling me a guy in a bulletproof vest couldn't have bear hugged this child from behind and pulled her away because he was worried he maybe would get hit in the arm with a knife? Like, sorry, if you're signing up to do a dangerous job, then you're electing to put yourself at risk. This is one of those risks.
If you're afraid of black children, you shouldn't be a quote unquote officer of the peace. Like,
yeah.
No.
I just brought it up not to go into like all of that, but
no,
just
of course
to,
not.
just to
It's
like,
hard not to.
I know, but just to think about like white supremacy doesn't actually serve the people that it benefits.
No,
it doesn't serve them. It's like fast food. It's like eating like just straight sugar instead of like it actually being nourishing to the soul.
It's comfortable.
Yeah.
That's the extent. That's period. It's comfortable.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
Okay, let's move
Karen
on.
Crimes. Remember when my sister's haircut?
I'm close to being done with my segment, so I'm not going to say it gets less angsty, but I'm almost done. Okay, so another social science model of whiteness highlights that white individuals experience two different types of threats when confronted with the idea of privilege. Number one, that one's accomplishments were not earned based on merit. I worked hard to get where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And number
Guess
two,
who had to work harder?
Exactly.
Not white people.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, that being white may mean that one has inherent social advantages. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
So these authors of that paper proposed a more 3D model of white identity management in which white persons engage in three strategies to cope with these threats. Number one, deny. This strategy allows white individuals to view accomplishments in a binary. That is, accomplishments that are solely viewed as a result of personal competence as opposed to situational or other factors through denying that privilege exists in the first place. Number 2, distance. While possibly acknowledging the existence of privilege, this technique entails a white person arguing that the privilege doesn't apply to their personal experiences or success. Privilege remains valid in the abstract, but is positioned as something foreign to that person at hand. So, for example, a white person saying, well, I grew up poor.
Right.
I didn't go to college. I didn't get any handouts. It's like, okay,
that's my favorite one. I
missing-
didn't get any handouts.
You're missing the point.
Favorite
It's like, really?
one.
Okay, let's talk about college prices. When
Oh
you
my God. The third is dismantle. So the strategy shows as a white individual embracing or supporting policies and other changes aimed at evening the playing field. So deny and distance serve to unilaterally maintain white privilege, whereas dismantle may yield positive outcomes even while being based in an effort to undo perceptions of whites as advantaged. So I think what this is kind of saying is that as white people, there's not something that you can do in the next 15 minutes to help the whole situation that our country is in, like the element of racism in our society. I think that what they're saying is that the best thing that you can do as a white person is to try and dismantle these ideas, to be aware of them, to confront them when you see them, to start conversations. But and I think that that's kind of ties into like this whole white savior complex. You're not going to solve this problem through action
the best thing you can do as a white person who's trying to dismantle this isn't to like try to go out there and like save a person of color.
No, it's your inner work.
Yes. It's like,
And
don't
it's lifelong.
be the problem.
Yeah.
And when your fellow white loved ones are the problem, you gotta be willing to get a little uncomfortable and call them out on it. It sucks. It's hard.
Yeah.
It really sucks, especially when it's
But
your
it doesn't
in-laws.
suck nearly as much as being murdered
Yeah.
by
No.
police.
For sure
Like,
not.
That's the thing too that I had to learn is like I have literally your responses of anxiety, especially for white people, especially for
Discomfort.
white women. Those responses of discomfort equate in your brain as like fear and like that you're in danger.
You're not
Well, we've
safe.
been trained. We've been
Exactly.
socialized, especially as women,
Right.
to make things comfortable, to be hospitable, to make conversations
To
go
accommodate.
smoothly, to accommodate,
Yeah. So
make
it's just
everyone
our-
feel good.
It's an automatic response for us to get that kind of fear and anxiety. And so I've gotten in the habit of just literally telling myself in my head, you're not in danger. Like when I start to feel those feelings because I'm being called out or called in, or like or I'm having a difficult conversation with like a white loved one and I'm getting like really worked up and scared and I don't want to keep doing it. And then I'm like, wait, I'm not actually in any danger right now. Like, cool it.
So flip side then, if we bring this back around to Karens and Karen behavior, they are acting out of fear. They are trying to retain their comfort level, no matter how fucked up that is. So that's kind of psychologically where they're at. And to counteract the Karens of the world, we as white people need to be uncomfortable to have those conversations and be anti-racist, anti-Karen, and speak up.
And we fall short a lot, but we try.
Keep failing forward. That's
Yeah.
the point.
Yeah.
Gonna fail forever. You just got to keep going.
So moral of the story, no matter what your name is, society doesn't owe you anything. Mind your own goddamn business.
Be nice to servers.
Think 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times before calling the cops on a person of color, because it
This
could
is to
mean
white
the end
people, by
of
the
their
way.
lives.
Society owes you a lot if you're not white, but this is for white people, I'm assuming.
True.
Yeah, okay.
Be nice, like Kenyon said, be nice to the people who are serving you and wear a goddamn mask at the grocery store, especially if you're asked politely to do so.
It's really not that big a deal.
It's not that big of a deal.
If you can breathe through the fumes of all of the
hairspray,
paint, and stain that you use on that live, laugh, love sign, then you can breathe through a little piece of cotton.
Yeah. So that is my segment. We went a lot deeper.
That's okay. It's important.
Than usual. But yes, I think it's important. So like Amanda said, nobody's perfect as white people. We fail forward. We just try to make it better. Just do better every day. There's no simple solution.
Are we ready for my case?
I mean, no, but yeah.
Nobody
Literally
dies.
never.
But you might wish death upon someone.
Oh, God.
That's my favorite pastime, so.
Wishing death upon people is your favorite pastime.
I saw somebody at the restaurant yesterday, and he said something about dying. Like, he got in a fender bender the other day, and I was like, and he joked, he was like, well, I wasn't ready to die. And I was like, nobody ever is. And he was like, what? And I was like, no, I mean, everyone's time is coming. It's not up to you. It comes when you least expect it.
You don't need to be ready. It's not a prereq.
And he was like, I have children. Did you just curse me? And I was like, I might have cursed you. I don't know. And he goes, get it off.
Lucy would have been hanged as a witch so fast.
Age of like 2, honestly.
Okay. So, switching gears, Karen crimes. In the summer of 2017, Fareed Hyatt and his wife Norinda Brown Hyatt, both lawyers, along with their 2 young sons, moved from a suburb of Washington, D.C. to Montclair, New Jersey. They had both recently gotten new jobs. He would be teaching criminal law at the City University of New York, CUNY, and she would be the director of the Civil Justice Clinic at Rutgers University. So neither of them are too terribly bright. They're just ridiculously fucking accomplished people. At first, the couple had assumed they would move to Brooklyn and that Norinda would commute into New Jersey for her job. But when they began apartment hunting, they found that they could not envision living in such a small home with 2 children after becoming accustomed to the amount of space that they had in the suburbs of DC. So like a Brooklyn apartment, they were just like, we cannot.
Didn't work out.
Downsize that much. And so Norinda began asking her new colleagues about towns in New Jersey, and she learned that several members of the Rutgers faculty had settled in Montclair, an urban suburb, quote unquote, that is 40 minutes from New York City by train. Part of what made Montclair appealing was that it did not have the feel of a typical New Jersey suburb. Although it consistently ranked as one of New Jersey's wealthiest towns, the population was 24% Black. A young Black mayor had recently been elected, and there was a great arts and food scene. So they were like, I think we can get the space we want and still have like the vibe and the culture that we want close enough to New York in Montclair.
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah. So Fareed and Norinda decided that they could move here without sacrificing all the reasons that they had been initially excited to move to Brooklyn. And so the family moved into a 6-bedroom house in Upper Montclair, which they soon learned was known as the, quote, whitest part of town. When they moved in, Fareed decided he wanted to paint the house black. As he explained it, a private joke about, quote, the only Black family on the block in the black house.
Oh, okay. So they are a people of color.
Oh, yes. Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't specify that. But yes, Fareed and Norinda are both Black.
Okay.
So Norinda objected to this, however, and they compromised on a lighter charcoal color of the house. And
I like
for a
it.
while,
Striking.
oh yeah, that's like very trendy now too.
Yeah, it's quite chic.
Yeah, I think they were like a little bit ahead of the curve, but that shit is all over Pinterest now.
Oh, I hate this hand cream. I just opened a new one and I really hate it.
Wow. You should start a letter writing campaign and go full Karen about it.
It's very chic. Ugh. Leaves me sticky and greasy.
What
it's
is
from
it?
Bath and Body Works.
Okay, well, I
Barf
think
and
we've
Blarty Works.
figured out the problem.
Barf and Blorty Works.
How much glitter is in it?
It reeks. It smells like an airplane bathroom. I don't like it. Anyway, moving on.
You know I get a tax.
I do. It's making me have to poop. Ew.
Ish.
Okay, so for a while, it seemed like things were going well in their new home. They were excited to find a public Montessori school nearby to send their sons. And this school had a black principal and mostly black teachers, so they were really excited about that. That was important for them that their sons have black educator role models.
Mm-hmm.
They became very involved with the school, and Norinda was elected president of the PTA, which I feel like is like quite the
Valley
coup
PTA?
for like a new family moving in to become president of the PTA.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like some Pretty Little Lies stuff.
Right?
Gotta
I
wield
just-
a lot of power.
I just think
Isn't it
about
Big
the
Little,
phone
Big
tree.
Little Lies? I think you're getting Pretty Little Liars and Big Little Lies mixed up.
The HBO one with Nicole Kidman.
That's Big Little Lies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're the
Well,
same
they're all
in my
pretty,
brain
so.
as myself.
They're not the same.
Pretty Little Big Fat Liars.
Oh,
Winning.
Jesus. Pretty Little My Big Fat Greek Wedding was a lie. Starring Nicole Kidman.
She's in a lot these days. Seemingly
She
she says
is
yes
busy.
to everything.
She's extremely busy.
The poor man's Anne Hathaway.
Okay.
Well, I was thinking of Jake
The poor
Gyllenhaal.
man's sunscreen commercial. So,
This is the poor man's Gwyneth Paltrow, let's be honest.
Nicole Kidman isn't
People-
the poor man's anything.
She doesn't sell $80 candles that smell like her vagina. I'm just
No, that's
saying.
what makes her better than Gwyneth Paltrow.
I know, but she's
IMO.
probably poorer because she's not selling candles.
I don't know. She's married
or
to like
maybe
a country
she's
star.
so rich she doesn't need to sell candles that smell like her vagina. Ever thought about that?
Okay.
I think Nicole Kidman is doing just fine.
Okay.
I am deeply offended. And I'm out of ice cubes because they melted.
That's why
Sue.
she's getting a little pissy.
Okay, so they also made friends with their neighbors and discovered that their neighborhood was not quite as white as they had initially been told and was actually home to numerous interracial families. So they're like, things are going good.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, they were actually pleasantly surprised by what seemed to be a lack of racial tension in their community. Fareed recalled that, quote, one day he was out fixing some uneven concrete on the sidewalk in front of his house. A white woman, a neighbor, stopped to ask about the work he was doing. At the end of their conversation, she said, "You remind me so much of my ex-husband," seemingly in like a positive way.
Okay.
Fareed assumed the husband was black when she said this, but no, her husband was white. And so a black man had reminded a white woman of her white ex-husband. Imagine that. This is Fareed's anecdote about his experience.
Okay.
And he's felt positive about it.
Wouldn't
Okay.
the city be responsible for fixing the sidewalk outside of your house?
I mean, yes, but also, like, does the city ever fix anything in a timely manner?
Well, and is this
If you're
in
caring
more of,
about it.
is this in more of like a suburban area?
Yeah.
Urban, suburban, Montclair.
Because I don't know. I feel like living out in the suburbs that we grew up in, I could see homeowners, even though yes, they could call the city, just taking care of that stuff themselves.
Yeah, if it's a small enough job, I can see somebody just doing it.
I guess. I have no idea how to fix a sidewalk.
I mean, I guess I could see that anywhere where people are like, fuck it, I'll just do it myself. It doesn't really matter if you're in a suburb or a city.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm separating those two things. Who cares?
I don't know why I brought it up, but it was just
Also
gnawing
that.
at me.
So, but then about 3 years after they moved in July of 2020,
Nicole Kidman showed up.
Fareed had a much...
Anne Hathaway.
It's like the weirdest. Fareed had a much different interaction with another white woman from the neighborhood.
Uh-oh.
This time, there were landscapers working on the property, his property, while Farid and Narinda were both inside working from home due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
They were having a small stone patio installed in the backyard, so like many other families, they had decided to invest in some upgrades to their home since they would be stuck there due to COVID for the foreseeable future. They wanted to have like a nice backyard outdoor space to enjoy. And like,
I'm literally overhauling my entire home.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a thing.
But then a woman named Susan Schultz walked onto the property and demanded that the landscapers tell her if they had a permit for the work they were doing. So she walked into their backyard.
She trespassed.
Yep.
To demand a permit from the workers during like the work day. So both Farid and Narinda are like busy with their work inside. Schultz
Can you imagine?
Sadly. I mean, I can't imagine someone doing that to me because I have white privilege.
I'm saying, could you imagine seeing work being done on an adjacent property and marching over to be like, do you have the right to be here?
I can't imagine doing that because I don't like to talk to strangers.
True.
First
I
of
also
all.
don't give a shit.
And
Who
I
cares?
don't care.
It's not your property. What the fuck do you care?
It's none of my fucking business. But also, like, I'm not going to choose to have a conversation with anyone I don't know.
First and foremost.
Are you nuts?
I'm not leaving my house.
No.
I have to suspect that she's doing that because these landscapers maybe were of a certain descent, and then she felt like she had the right to do that.
That I don't know. I don't know the ethnicity of the landscapers.
She probably certainly knew the race of the homeowners, though, and that's what it's about.
Yes, she definitely knew the race of the homeowners. So Schultz lived one street over, and her backyard was separated from the Hyatt's backyard by a wooden fence. So she could see, like she was on the other street, but the backyards touched.
Sure.
Her main reputation in the neighborhood up until this point was as the, quote, beer pong mom.
Oh,
because
cool
she
I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
She had a son in high school and would often allow him to host parties in her backyard. So it's not like she's like a rule
Pearl clutching,
follower.
letter of the law, real gal kind of gal.
Where's your fucking permit to let these kids drink
Underage children. Yeah.
So when she was harassing the landscaper, Narinda was on the porch taking a work call, which she had to pause to tell Schultz to come back later, and she would answer her questions. So she was like, if you have questions about the permit, like, come back later. I'm in the middle of a call, but I will talk to you later. Not just
Which
like
is fucking
busy.
graceful beyond what this woman was owed in the first place.
Yep. Schultz left, but almost immediately returned, causing Narinda to say to her coworker, let me go because my neighbor's trying to talk to me and she's a firecracker.
That was really nice.
Really kind.
Yeah.
I gotta say, the neighbor that I have directly across from my backyard is also a firecracker. And that's the reason why I'm putting up a fucking privacy fence this summer.
Put it. Erect it.
My God. The stories I could tell, I'll tell you guys after the call.
Great.
So Schultz then proceeded to aggressively question Narinda about the patio work, demanding to see a permit and telling her that if she didn't have one, the work needed to stop immediately.
LOL. Okay. What are you? The mayor of my property?
Yeah, permit
Fuck
Patty.
over it. What a bitch.
At this
What is
point,
that meme? It's like Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch.
Yes.
I'm going to Google that and it's amazing. Fuck J.K. Rowling, but that's a funny meme. I'm Googling it.
So at
The audacity. This bitch.
I'll put it on the drive.
At this point, Farid also left his work to come outside and intervene because he didn't want to leave his wife alone, like dealing with this nut job.
Right.
So he had to cut his work short and come deal with it. When Fareed asked Schultz to leave, she walked away, but then returned 2 more times in the span of a half hour.
Ish.
Becoming more and more agitated in her demands to see a permit and also accusing the Hayat's children of throwing balls into her backyard.
Well, no, that was your kids playing beer pong.
Yeah, also
those were ping pong balls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the Hayats have young kids. They're in Montessori. They're in like fucking pre-K.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so what if they throw a ball in your backyard? Throw it back. Be like, here's your ball.
Yeah.
How fucking hard is that?
It's not hard. It's not. Ugh.
So once again, Fareed asked her to leave, and she, this time, refused.
Amanda, I got your
I put it in the drive, but I sent the Harry Potter and the audacity of this bitch book photo to the
with Harry Potter
chat.
looking over his shoulder like...
It's from the cover of the 5th book, and he is real bitchy in that book.
Pissed.
He is pissed.
Balls. The balls.
Balls. That's where you left off. Balls.
At this point, neighbors had come out of their houses to see what the commotion was about, and the argument between Fareed and Schultz became more and more heated.
It's about balls.
Balls and a patio.
Balls and a patio.
Finally, as Fareed continued to demand that she get off his property, Schultz began walking backwards down the driveway and declared that she was calling the police, at which point Fareed began filming her.
Mm-hmm.
Good call. This video would later go viral online, and it shows Schultz calling the police and describing in her delusions that Fareed had physically assaulted her by pushing her off of the property.
Which did not happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She tells the dispatcher, quote, "I need an officer. The gentleman who is taller than me pushed me off his property."
Read, the gentleman who is blacker than me pushed me off of his property. His property. It's his property.
Yeah. And she's been there 4 or 5 times and refused to leave.
I like that her quote
he didn't
even
ever
says.
push her.
I just like that her quote is even pushed me off his property.
Yeah.
I like taller than me. Okay.
Yeah, she's trying to paint him to police as a threat, which, quite frankly,
as a hulking black man.
I mean, I'm taller than Amanda.
That's violent assault when a white person calls the cops and does this shit.
Oh, we'll get to it.
For sharks. I just think that this gentleman who's taller than me.
Right.
She's
knows
also
what she
like
wanted
a petite
to say.
woman.
Okay.
So she then addresses Fareed saying, quote, "You pushed me off your property," while his voice can be heard from behind the camera denying it. Narinda's voice can also be heard on the tape saying, quote, "You've been harassing us for 2 years," and telling Fareed to, quote, "Please go inside so our children don't have to see the police," which is like very heartbreaking.
God. Yeah.
Neighbors can be heard on the tape yelling things like "shame on you" to Susan.
Good.
And, quote, "In this climate, you're doing this? Really?" Fareed later recalled thinking, quote, "It was like, yo, this woman really believes what she's saying. I feel like in her mind, she really did start believing that she was assaulted. Maybe she was affronted by being told no, but for her, that affront was synonymous with me physically assaulting her. There was no difference in her mind."
Yes, it's that whole I have to tell myself I'm not in danger thing. It's like triggering the accountability and the discomfort of that accountability trigger that same fucking like panic response of danger.
It's a fear thing.
Yeah.
But also something that kept like coming up in some of the articles that I was reading about like psychologically why Karens react the way that they do is in a fear response because like in the pandemic and especially at the beginning of the pandemic, your limbic system is really overwhelmed, which is like your fight or flight system. So your panic response is sort of an overdrive, which like I understand that, but for that to excuse this level of behavior is fucking absurd.
No,
Well,
she thought this out. Her limbic system wasn't so on edge that she didn't feel entitled to go onto this man's property for 4 times.
Right. And that might apply to
narrowly.
Escalation of these incidents in the last 12 months, but this Karen bullshit has been going on way before the pandemic.
Well, I think the Karen stuff has definitely been heightened in the last year.
Yeah, that's what I just said, but it's not a result. Like, the Karen stuff was happening before the pandemic.
It's been happening since racial, issues have been a thing. But and I am absolutely not agreeing with this or defending this at all, but a lot of articles have pointed to added anxiety and stress because of the pandemic as being your heightened fear response.
There's like an uptick in these incidents in the last year that could be attributed to that. That
Don't
makes
agree
sense.
with it. Don't agree with it, but I'm just putting it out there that is a theory.
So back to this case. Within 10 minutes of her calling, 3 Montclair police cars showed up. Although after speaking to the Hayats and to Schultz, they soon left and later put out a statement that this was a, quote, dispute between neighbors and no police report had been filed.
How about charge her for fucking making a false police whatever?
And trespassing multiple times.
Good.
We will get to it. So Fareed posted the video he had taken to Facebook with the following caption, quote, "It has happened again. White entitlement and black hate embodied in Susan, who lives on Marion Road and works at the EPA, called the police to lodge a false report of assault against me when told to leave our property. She invoked centuries of brutality in her call to the police and sought to put her black neighbors back in their place. She believed that we were required to answer her questions and smile while doing so.
Yep.
But to her surprise, her efforts were met by 2 proudly black human beings, parents, lawyers, law professors, activists, community members, neighbors, citizens, and fighters who refused to submit." I have chills.
God bless.
Her efforts were also met by a collection of largely white neighbors who refused to simply go along with her racist efforts or not stand up against her attempt to invoke the racist power of the state through police. Their efforts were anti-racist ideology at work. Each neighbor declared to her and the police that she summoned that this was a lie and no such assault occurred. She left our home rejected and unfulfilled, yet still empowered to do future harm.
Because really, what's the punishment for that behavior in this case?
Well, we will get to it. So a couple days later, Montclair residents, led by a local high school group of students, protested on Schultz's street, holding signs that said #NotHere, white entitlement is violence, and chanting, "Hey, hey, ho, ho, your racism has got to go."
Love it.
Amazing.
They left chalk messages in front of her house reading Black Lives Matter and "Not Here." Montclair's local gelato shop also banned Susan from entering.
Yes.
And the owners told her to, quote, "move to Florida where you belong."
Oh my God. Racists don't get ice cream. Sorry. This is a really tangible.
You don't get gelato.
No, until you can show us that you are on your journey to undo and unpack all this shit, you don't get ice cream.
Is she from Florida?
No.
Where'd this Florida thing come from?
I mean,
I guess
on.
When it could just align in such a way as to compel one to draw lines between them.
Florida's a cesspool, okay? Florida's a cesspool.
It could as easy. Girl, you have tattoos commemorating Florida.
Yeah, I didn't say I don't like it. I'm saying it's a cesspool. And I don't have tattoos commemorating Florida. I have tattoos commemorating gators, which are pests.
Just as easily point to any southern state, is all I'm saying. Florida just seemed like oddly specific. I don't disagree with it.
I thought it was oddly specific too, but also highly entertaining.
Yeah. The panhandle.
Let's just say Florida has a reputation that would allow this to be fitting.
Florida is, in fact, the deepest south
Yeah.
in the U.S.
Okay,
Contiguous U.S.
however, there was initially some confusion about
Consusan.
there was some confusion about
Susan.
Fusen's identity, about Susan Schultz's identity. So one Facebook comment shaming her had a response from a neighbor that said, quote, "That's not the Susan you think it is. We have about 5 Susans on this street."
Oh my
5
God.
Susan Schultzes.
I don't know.
Maybe.
We know it's Susan Schultz from Marion Road in Montclair, New Jersey.
It's funny how defensive the neighbors got.
We
got
got 5
Susans
Susans
here.
Well, they're probably concerned they're going to get like doxxed and targeted, which I
Yeah.
do understand that fear.
Oh, for sure.
But it seems like they got the right Susan.
Yeah.
Like, we're okay.
So an opinion piece in the local Montclair paper about Fareed's video went viral. And this opinion piece asked, but what about when there's no video? Which is what we dealt with also with the George Floyd case. It's like,
All
okay,
the ones that weren't filmed.
right. When there are no corroborating white neighbors or witnesses, when the police are required to parse through false accusations and determine who is telling the truth, middle class, petite, white Susan and Fareed Hayat, taller than Susan, black man,
Yeah.
to determine who is telling the truth, would the Hayat family have been believed then? Which is a very fucking valid question. Susan Schultz never spoke publicly about the incident, although she did reportedly have a friend deliver an apology letter to the Hayats on her behalf, acknowledging that
Good.
she...
A friend delivered it.
I hope that friend was the mailman because she had to send it from Florida.
God.
She acknowledged in the letter that she should not have called the police and that she now understood how involving the police could have become a, quote, much bigger deal. So at least she realized that tiny
I
fraction
genuinely
of it.
hope this interaction started her on an anti-racism journey.
Yeah, I hope so too. So one more piece that I didn't add but feel is very important is that turns out you don't fucking need a permit to install a patio.
You sure don't. As someone who's getting that done, all you need, like, you need a permit if you're adding something to the structure of your house. So if you're building a deck that's attached to your house, then you need a permit. Otherwise, you really just need them to know where you're allowed to dig. And you could get that by, like, calling 311.
And it depends on if it's like a fire pit. But
Right.
yes, also, obviously, these are all different depending on what city, like what
Right.
zone you're in. So.
Yeah. But I just thought it was funny. Like, she demanded to see a permit. I think at one point, too, Fareed or maybe Narinda asked her, like, do you know if you need a permit? And she was like, I don't know.
Oh my God. Because it's not about the fucking permit.
It's not
anyway.
about the permit.
It's about this woman being
She
like,
didn't
how
want
dare
her
a
black
black
neighbors
family.
socializing in her backyard.
Well, not
basically.
even. It's like, how dare this black family be making improvements to their home, even?
How
Like, it
dare
goes
this
so
black
deep.
family, period,
Right.
Right.
do
But
anything?
I just thought that was very funny, although it's neither here nor there, because even if you did need a permit,
It's not your fucking business. It's not your
none
house.
of her business. You're
Yeah.
not the fucking mayor. You're not on the permit committee. You don't
Yeah.
have a right to see it.
and
were the
kicker,
mayor-
you don't need a fucking permit. You don't
And
need
if
one.
you were the mayor, you probably are busy, too busy to deal with individual property permits.
The mayor
There's
would be
another.
like,
There's another office for that.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Susan. God bless you.
Susan from Marion Road in Montclair, New Jersey.
Hoping you're on an anti-racist journey
In Florida.
in Florida.
Leaving
So
your fucking neighbors
anyway,
alone.
I feel so bad for Fareed and Narinda. I'm glad that in their case it didn't end in violence. It very easily could have, as
Yep.
we have seen.
Yes, it could have.
Which is
Oof.
nothing funny about that, but yeah.
Nope. Well done.
Thank you.
Nice.
What a case.
Yeah.
Now I want to build a patio and
Well-
also put up a privacy fence.
Go ahead and pull those permits while we hear a word from our sponsors.
I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I don't think you need one, but I'm gonna.
I'm going to show up in your yard and demand one. Get ready for me.
Hurricane Amanda. Blowing in.
Permit Mandy coming into your yard. A yard near you.
Permit Mandy. If life had
Zone
taken-
and Mandy.
Oh my God. Okay.
We need to get
Amazing.
like paper doll cutouts of Karen outfits and put them over old photos of you with
And
your
wigs.
haircut. Zone and Mandy.
Here she is, Zone and Mandy.
like a bright orange vest.
Oh my God. There is a picture on Facebook where someone turned my blue hair into a Karen wig. I'll find it. It's really good.
Oh, I saved it to my phone because I too saw that.
If
All
you
right.
can find it, we'll put it on the blog. Are we ready for my case?
Yes.
Which
Maybe?
admittedly really isn't a case. There's barely any crime here. I just wanted an excuse to complain about this particular woman, and I have a tantalizing lead-in, so don't guess even though you already know.
Okay.
Here we go.
Amazing.
I'm not going to look.
A woman who got famous for being extremely pregnant and having one of the most offensive haircuts of all time. She was the poster woman for wanting to speak to the manager, chunky highlights, and questionable life choices. So today, I want to discuss the Karen crime timeline of one of the most infamous Karens, Kate Gosselin.
All right.
Okay.
So my question to start us off is that was Kate, I never watched the show. Was she like a Karen? Or did she just have
Oh.
the haircut and like a bunch of kids?
She
She's
was kind
always
of a
been a
bitch.
Karen.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
From the start.
Okay.
And did
So-
they have like 8 tuplets, or did
No,
they have like?
we'll get to it.
Okay.
For our young listeners and Lucy, who may not have been glued to TLC in the early 2000s, here's a very brief
I didn't have
rundown
cable.
of who this woman is. Fair. She was born in Philly and lived in Pennsylvania basically her whole life. I think she does still live in Pennsylvania. She became a nurse and was doing that for a living when she met her now ex-husband, John Gosselin, in 1997.
He's gross.
So gross. And I do say this at the end. John Gosselin is also deeply problematic, but this is Karen crimes, so we're not going there today. So the couple married in 1999 and had twins together in October of 2000. They wanted more children, but were struggling to get pregnant due to PCOS, which is extremely common. Yep, hands up. So Kate went on fertility treatment. She was doing like the shots to bolster her fertility. And bolstered by this treatment, when she did get pregnant, it was a litter of 6.
Oh.
Nope.
So twins and then 6?
6 babies, yep. So the
No.
6 babies were born in May of 2004. All 6 survived, obviously, but they were very premature. They spent a lot of time in the NICU and had to kind of overcome a lot as little sweet itty bitty babies.
Bless the children, but 6. That doesn't seem.
It's rough. That's rough. That's rough. That's
6.
scary. That uterus, my God.
the
Twins is hard enough. One
It's
is
all
hard
one.
enough.
One is hard enough.
Some people, me, are not equipped.
Menstruation is hard enough.
Yes, I give birth to 1 egg every month, and that's plenty.
Ugh.
Ugh. So the family had their first brush with fame shortly after the birth in 2004 when NBC's Home Delivery featured them. That's like a show. Featured them as winners of a home renovation to make room for their now massive family.
I
I
have
thought-
seen that. I've seen that.
delivery.
Home delivery,
I
which
thought
I don't.
it was when she like gave birth at home.
No,
on
she
I
did
camera.
don't
not
think
give
they
birth
let
at
you
home.
have sex tuplets at home.
No. That immediately all need to go to the NICU. Like,
Yeah.
no.
It's actually her choice.
I mean, it is, but that would be tough. But I actually, I didn't look too deep into Home Delivery, the show, and maybe Kenyon can tell me. if I'm wrong, but I don't think they even mean delivery, meaning you just had kids. It's like I'm delivering you an upgrade to your home.
It's like extreme home makeover kind of,
Exactly.
right?
Yes, it's basically the NBC version of that is what it seems like. But
I don't remember it existing beyond this one episode. I just remember this episode, and I remember like looking back at all of those kids and just being like, that's a lot of kids.
Yep. But that's what happened. They just delivered a home.
Well, they went to their home and remodeled the whole thing.
Right.
So I think they put on an addition. They made it
home makeover.
Basically, yeah. So then the family was featured again in 2005 on the Discovery Health special Surviving Sextuplets and Twins, which aptly named. And then there was a follow-up to that same special a year later that was literally Surviving Sextuplets and Twins, a year later. Get creative here, Discovery Health.
It's like Locked Up Abroad, but worse.
Yeah. And it was Discovery Health that actually launched the reality series John and Kate Plus 8 before it was purchased by TLC, where the series blew the fuck up and aired successfully for 11 seasons.
I think primarily because of the dysfunction among John and Kate.
Yeah, they hated each other.
From the beginning.
Yeah, from the twins.
Yeah, I can't. So the series captured all of the ins and outs of their lives, including John and Kate's tumultuous relationship and eventually divorce, which they announced on the show in 2009. This served as drama fodder and fueled the series until its final air date in 2017, which I can't believe it was on until that recently.
I
did not know that.
Blows my mind.
Definitely 2009. When you said 2009, I was like, that feels right. About then.
2017, it was still on. That's when it ended.
I've got a binge in my future.
No.
I'm
So-
into it.
Kate was a Karen before and as soon as the show began. One example from 2007 when she understandably hired a cleaning lady to assist in their home. She fired this woman after one day for not meeting her standards and basically did this and discussed this publicly on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than giving this woman a chance and pointing out some areas of importance in terms of cleaning in the home. Kate said, quote, like anyone who has someone clean for the first time, I followed behind her and became concerned when I found areas completely undisturbed as far as dusting went. God bless her for giving it a try, but I don't know whose standards that would meet. So she hired this woman.
Everybody loves to have the homeowner follow them
her
around. Oh.
On the first day. And the areas that were unattended to per her standards included between books on a bookshelf in their kids' room.
Okay, nobody would dust that.
Nobody. And then dust
Nobody
that
would do
she
that.
found on the bottom of a laundry hamper. So she fired her.
I gotta say, we're doing a kitchen remodel now as a person who is living in a world of dust, like accumulated drywall dust. I would never think to even look for dust in those two places.
No.
Right.
Not even, especially not if you're a normal person.
And
Dusting
also,
the outside of the books is
Sure.
like a once a year dusting.
Yeah.
For me.
Yes.
I mean,
In
I also
between books?
That's insane.
completely bonkers. I also do not know if the woman that she hired was a woman of color. I'm not sure. I couldn't corroborate that. And I'm not about to go back through fucking 11 seasons of John and Kate plus 8 to find out.
I'll
But
do
this
it.
is
Don't worry.
this is really gross behavior regardless, but
Yeah.
it's especially harmful and problematic if she has enacted this kind of Karen shit
Yes.
on a woman of color who she hired
Absolutely.
to work in her home.
Also,
So-
who has the fucking time? Don't you have 8 kids, bitch, to worry about? Why are
Yeah,
you following me around?
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. Like it's
You
just,
hired me to clean for
clean.
you.
it's so fucked. It's so gross.
Okay.
So the show captured their attempts at reconciliation, John and Kate, including a meeting in Los Angeles with a therapist based out of their home state in Pennsylvania. But they did like a lot of like specials and
Yeah.
dumb shit that they had to fly to LA to film. So they brought in this therapist from Pennsylvania to help the couple to the tune of $10,300 for her services and travel expenses. The therapist, Sylvia LaFair, claims she flew there on Kate's request to provide counseling to her and John in 2009 before their divorce was finalized. And this would have been like right around the time they had been talking more openly about the dissolving of their marriage on air. So this is probably an appearances thing anyway.
Okay.
A couple of years later, LaFair sued Kate because she never paid for the services or expenses. LaFair won this lawsuit and Kate was ordered to pay up, but surprisingly, LaFair then withdrew and did not pursue the payment from Kate. She later blogged about her reasoning, stating that her motivation for filing the claim in the first place was never about cash, but, quote, taking responsibility and being accountable for one's words and deeds. She feels this has been validated. She said if she pursues the case, she would feed the media beast and, quote, would also feed Miss Gosselin's need for media attention. Burn, and I love it.
But she's out 10 grand about this?
Yeah, but clearly she doesn't need the 10 grand. I think she wanted to make a point, and she did, and then she was like, fuck it. And also, maybe something that she didn't include, but is potentially part of it. Kate was scrambling to pay a lot of shit at the time, and we'll kind of get to it. But it's like, I don't know if she was confident that she'd ever get this money fucking anyway.
Well,
So
I don't know if this counts as small claims court, but small claims court is a fucking pain in the dick.
Yeah.
And even if you're in the right, and even if you do win that case, ever seeing that money is a whole nother can of worms.
Yep.
Like, you can get the judgment that says that you're in the right, but then how often do you want to show up to court? How many petitions do you want to file to make them pay you piece by piece? It's a fucking racket.
Yeah.
Like,
a lot of times it's just not worth it. And this woman was like, well, you know, this is out there now publicly, and I don't want to keep giving this woman, this horrible woman, headlines. So fuck it. God bless her.
Get that.
In 2010, Kate's own brother started taking legal action against her. As it turns out, Kate and her brother Kevin, and I know I am the victim of name alliteration in my family as well, but it needs to stop. It is egregious.
It doesn't bother me sometimes. Because Zach and Zoe.
I don't like it. I gotta say,
Zach
I don't
and
like
Zoe,
it.
I feel like that's fine. I don't know. But this is Kate, Kevin, and Kendra all in the same
When it
family.
gets to be 3. I think it's very cute at 2. But then the problem is, if you're going to have 3 and you don't do the third one, then do they feel left out?
Well, and also, this is 3 Ks.
I don't like
Well,
the letter
like, yeah,
K.
what-
As somebody with
what about-
a K name, I don't like the letter K.
What about Zach and Zoe? Like, what the fuck is your third child gonna be named?
I like Zach and Zoe, but I don't know.
She's
I
saying
don't
if they had a third,
What would they do?
what godforsaken Z name could they
You
have?
should go with xylophone with an X.
Zubatube.
It's just I'm not against staunchly alliteration, but it's a slippery slope, and you have to be very, very careful.
Yeah.
The two of them had apparently been at odds with each other for years. So Kevin, this is Kate's brother, Kevin and his wife Jody, so Kate's sister-in-law, lived close by to the Gosselin family, and the children were very close with their Aunt Jody, who appeared on the show with regularity, especially in the beginning. Jody was kind of into this whole thing at first, but soon started to worry about the problematic effects of constant cameras on the Gosselin children and her own children whenever she would be around.
Oh, yeah.
So she stated in an interview, quote, there were cameras in the children's bedrooms at one point, and they were filming all year round, and these were very huge concerns for us. And I get that. That's fair. In regards to John and Kate, Jody said they're very lost right now. They're very blinded by all of this media and this, fame and fortune. As for Kevin, he said, quote, we want to be the voice for our nieces and nephews. We're seeing it turn tide that they're being viewed as a commodity.
Yeah.
So they were growing increasingly concerned for the psychological well-being of their nieces and nephews, and you kind of can't blame them, especially once you hear this juicy tidbit. So it's winter of 2010, and Kevin said the young kids were told it was Christmas morning so that the camera crew could get genuine, excited reactions from them for filming. Quote, it wasn't until after, like later, that they were told it was not Christmas morning. They just did it for the show. So he goes on to say, can you imagine how confused 8 little kids were that morning? Just to get these reactions from them,
so
but it's
like
not even
November
Christmas.
28th.
Yeah,
it must
have been. Well, it must have been like snow on the ground, probably close to Christmas.
Yeah, the crew doesn't want to film over an actual holiday.
Right.
Yeah, but it was just a random date.
Yeah, it's not Christmas, but they told them it was Christmas so that they would get
And then they didn't
genuine
get to open any
reactions.
presents because it wasn't actually Christmas.
Probably not. It's just real weird and confusing. So Kevin and Jody also alleged that the kids did not have proper privacy or safety measures. They testified to this at a court hearing regarding mounting worries about child labor practices as they relate to reality television. As a result, an investigation was launched because this whole court appearance was like very heavily focused on the show John and Kate Plus 8 and other reality shows that involve children. But like John and Kate Plus 8 was definitely in the spotlight at this hearing. So an investigation was launched, but everything, according to the investigation, was by the book, which, like, in my opinion, whether or not this whole thing is like giving these kids allotted privacy time or staying out of their rooms or like whatever.
Allotted privacy time? Oh.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
whatever these rules are, maybe they are adhering to them. But this is still
They had cameras in their bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is still a super invasive situation for these kids to be in with no way of consenting or advocating for themselves because they're minors, so their parents can make these decisions to commodify their own family. So these kids don't really have any rights. If their parents sign off and say, yeah, we can have our kids on camera for 11 fucking seasons, which is basically 11 fucking years, these kids really don't have a lot of room as children.
I don't think there should be kids on reality TV at all.
Oh, it's weird.
And I say that I've watched the Kardashians. I've watched
Honey
a long
Boo Boo.
time ago. I didn't watch that, but a
Teen
long
Mom.
time ago, Teen Mom. But like, I shouldn't have. There shouldn't be children on reality TV.
I just feel like it's
weird.
really
They
slippery
can't
slope.
consent.
Yeah. It just seems really crappy to me.
It's a quick descent into exploitative
Exactly. Commodifying your kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Kate obviously did not like her family speaking out against her publicly and was quoted saying, quote, spending time in court and gallivanting to New York to complain about me. Couldn't he be at home with his kids? And they've made a lot of money going out and complaining about us. I guess the money has run out because there they are out complaining again. The truth is I haven't allowed them to see my kids in 2 years. And according to Kate's sister Kendra, Kate had basically cut off contact with all of her side of the family at that point and made it very hard for any of them to see her children
Oh my god.
because they raised concerns. It's like she's pulling that Karen shit where it's like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just going to shut down any relationship with you because I don't want to be told. I don't want to see the hard truths. So this next little portion is from HollywoodLife.com.
Hard-hitting news.
Oh, we'll get to how insane my sources are. Quote, possibly the most awkward interview ever conducted happened in 2014 when Kate took Maddie and twin Kara Gosselin, so this is the older twins. At the time, they were 13.
Oh my god. I think I saw this. Ew.
On the Today Show
Ooh, yes.
to talk about their totally fine, nothing to see here family. Maddie and Kara refused to speak when Savannah Guthrie asked them questions about their home life, which visibly frustrated Kate. Quote, it's your chance, spit it out, she said to her girls, again, on fucking live television.
And
with
they're like
more-
looking at each other like, ooh.
Spit it out.
with
It's
more
awful.
than a tinge of
It's-
hostility.
It's awful.
Quote, I don't want to speak for them, but Maddie, go ahead. Sort of the things that you said in the magazine that years later, they're good, they're fine, go for it. No, you just said it, Maddie said, looking at her lap. Note that Kara didn't utter one word during the entire interview. I said it, Kate said, smiling through gritted teeth. they get really frustrated that people assume certain things in our house, and they always say, but that's not how it is, Mommy. Why do they say that about us? So she just brought these kids on the Today Show to try and get them to be her mouthpiece. And then was like visibly bonkers when they wouldn't go along with it.
I take it back, and children should always be on live TV.
Always be on the Today Show to prove that your mom is completely certifiable.
That sounds like television gold.
That apparently it was, but can you even imagine? There are clips from that interview that you can easily Google.
Way
It's cringeworthy.
cringy.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's like Ted Cruz when he tried to
Distance himself
Like
from Matt
hug-
Gaetz.
well, no, way before that, when he was like
Ted
running for
Cruz.
president, and he like tried, there was like a campaign video bloopers or something, and he like tried to like hug his daughters, and they were just like,
The Voldemort hug.
Ugh.
No one wants this.
Ugh.
Kate's former publicist spoke candidly on a podcast about working with her on TLC, and surprise, it was a nightmare. Some highlights from that interview, quote, everyone warned me that she was difficult, and I said, no, I'll compliment her. Like, I'll make her feel comfortable and happy.
Who's
and blah, blah, blah.
The
publicist.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I will
publicist
flag
was,
the word difficult, which is like the word bossy, and it's only used for women.
oh, for
But anyway,
sure.
next.
But also,
Yeah.
sometimes it's
Given
legitimate.
the context, I feel like
Yeah.
this might be legit.
And he was like, he was basically like, no, I'm going to make this work. Like, I'll make her comfortable. I'll compliment her. Like, I'm going to make her like me. Right. And then I don't know if it was the same interview or a different appearance at the Today Show, but this publicist was there as like her handler, basically. At the Today Show, I said, quote, your hair looks gorgeous. And she wouldn't even look me in the darn eyes.
Rude.
I know. After a day of being treated like absolute dirt by Kate, the publicist contacted his bosses at TLC. Quote, at the end of the day, I called my boss and said, she's an awful human. And they were like, we know. Thank you for the feedback.
Quick anecdote. My dad's a friend worked on the set of Drop Dead Gorgeous, which was at the time called Dairy Queens. That was like the working title. And so that person worked with Kirstie Alley and said she was a fucking horrible.
Well, yeah, she's always been a horrible. She's like a bonkers MAGA anti-vaxxer, anti-masker now.
I know she's like now a notoriously horrible person, but this was in like 99.
Right.
Yeah.
And so myself and people who heard about it were just like,
Yeah,
oh my
we were
gosh, she's
shocked
such like
at the time.
She's a superstar.
Don't
It's
meet
so
your heroes.
funny.
She's a
It's
don't
so
meet your
funny
heroes.
that somebody who's actually horrible and toxic can like play a character who's like
Who's horrible and
and toxic for laughs.
And then be
And not-
iconic forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she like exemplified that character.
So I'm going to wrap this up now, but most recently and seemingly still ongoing since I can't find a resolution to this and it first hit the news in like late 2019. So I imagine that if there were court proceedings scheduled for 2020, then it got pushed back because of the pandemic, etc. So I'll have to set a Google alert, give it a Goog. Kate has been sued for $55,278.09 by former employee Andrea Novak for, quote, willfully failing or refusing to pay employee contributions, employer contributions, reimbursement, interest, and or penalties as required under the U.S. law while Andrea was working for her. So probably like all kinds of travel. I mean, the travel reimbursement thing, that fucking tracks. Has happened with the therapist. If you know, Kate's
just all those
company
things.
had agreed to contribute to a 401k, etc.
Yeah.
I don't know all the nitty gritty, but she wasn't paying the way that she had agreed
Promised
to pay.
to.
Long and short of it. And in 2020, she placed and sold her $1 million home up for sale in the last year, and many speculate that this is because she's out of cash and the pending lawsuit will be extremely costly. This is from Mia.com, and I say here, my sources are so bad and I don't care at all because all of this has to come from like rag mags because nobody else gives a fuck about Kate Gosselin except rag magazines and this podcast. So this is where we're at. Quote, according to its Zillow listing, Kate sold her house for about $1,085,000. The couple had bought it in 2008 before divorcing later that year for $1.1 million. So she sold it at a loss.
What?
Yeah.
After that many years and she
After
sold
that
it at
many
a
years.
loss? Oh, shit, that's terrible.
It's really bad. Karma. Karma's a bitch. She was active on her Instagram up until July 2020, which is when she uploaded her last post. So it seems like she might be stepping out of the spotlight finally and trying to like figure out her shit, which bye-bye. No one needs to hear from Kate Gosselin ever again.
Wow.
And like I said earlier, John Gosselin is also problematic. There are like abuse allegations, all kinds of wild shit. But this is Karen Crimes, so I didn't go there today. And that is my case.
Well, she did give the world the Karen haircut, which is a very lasting legacy, much more enduring than anything else she's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she gave birth to 8 children.
I mean,
we can't discount that, honestly.
cannot. God bless her, but
nice job.
Do your internal work, Kate Gosselin.
Right?
All right. Well, thank you to our fan picker, Blair Carpenter. This was a barrel of laughs.
You really crafted this incredible episode with your carpentry skills.
Good Lord.
I
Karen
nailed
Carpenter. Okay.
Anyway, thank you so much, and we will see you next week.
Yes, we will.
Bye.
Bye-bye.